and I emceed, and my head just swelled. Like, I thought so high of myself because I was able to MC, and I had friends who thankfully pulled me to the side and was like, yo, chill. Chill. So that was something that I needed. But I will say there are instances where you do have things that align with what you want. But again, because it's not what other people want for you, that's when, they give you their critique. Mm-hmm. And you got to be careful of discerning what is actually critique that is filled with love, and that actually wants to see me do well, and what is critique because I'm no longer fitting that mold or idea that you had of me to fit.
Welcome back to the Christ Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Calvin.
I'm Erica.
And today I have an old friend in the house. How you doing, Denzel?
I'm doing pretty good, brother.
Good. I'm good. I will tell everybody how I met Denzel momentarily, but we always start with our check-in. Yeah. So let's go there first. Erica, how was your last week?
It was very festive, but it was good. It was a lot of commotion, but, we got through it. I'm blessed and I'm grateful just to see 2025, honestly. I can't wait to see what God has in store.
Yeah, the holidays are always a lot of just ripping and running.
Everywhere.
And all kind of stuff.
A lot.
Yeah. How was your last week?
It was good.
Yeah.
What was last week? Was that New Year's Eve?
Yes.
Yeah.
New Year's was last weekend, right? Yeah.
Was it?
Was it? Yeah.
It feels so tight.
It was in the middle of last week.
Somebody pull up a calendar.
Right. It was good.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
You just hung out with family. You do anything special?
I went to church twice.
Yeah. Crossover service.
Yeah, crossover service. And then I think I went to the Amish market.
Ooh. Oh, really? What is this?
The Amish market?
That's in Maryland, right?
That's in Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay. Dutch Village.
Put me on.
Farmers market.
Okay.
Good produce.
Yeah.
Yes. Good
For
produce.
Sure.
Good poultry. Cake. Yeah, you gotta go.
I've never heard of this.
Oh
you never heard of it?
No.
You gotta go.
Man.
Where in Maryland?
Upper Marlboro.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on it.
Yeah.
Is it like every week or what?
Every week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thursday through Saturday, 8 to like.
Gotta beat the crowd. So.
Definitely go early in the morning.
Go early in the morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we be in there.
I'm there.
Yeah.
I'll be there too.
Yeah. So that's been the high.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to hit that up.
Mm-hmm.
How was Christmas? I don't think we saw each other since Christmas, Erica. Mm-hmm. How was Christmas?
It was chill. It was really, really chill. I mean, it didn't feel like Christmas.
Yeah.
So I really just spent my time church for one, and then just spending time with family and just chilling, taking it easy.
That's so interesting. I've heard so many people this year say it didn't feel like it was Christmas.
I wanted to follow up and ask, why did you feel that way? Because I sort of felt that way too.
Well, I guess it's because like normally I would look for, it's cold and like it's snowing and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know, just something in the atmosphere. There was something going on, and it like clearly we felt it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was something going on.
Christmas lights were like non-existent.
Oh no, that is so true.
Iman's in the house. Iman says that Christmas lights were non-existent this year.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I don't remember seeing a lot of festive stuff like in the past.
No.
I don't know what that's about. That's
I'm not liking it. Whatever it is, they need to stop.
Yeah, but I felt the same way this year. It was just like Christmas kind of just was here, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I gotta get gifts, I guess. Like,
Sure.
Usually I do the whole build up. I'm watching my Christmas movies.
You're playing your song.
Yes, it was none of that for me this year.
I
It was like, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully next year is different. I have a theory, and then I'm gonna just say this, and then I'm gonna just move on real fast. I think the election might have derailed.
I was gonna.
No, that's
but
what
I was gonna
think
say
it derailed us a little bit.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, it took us out of. We weren't in no playful
gonna say
mood.
that.
No.
We were not trying to play no games, listen to
No.
music. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
For inauguration.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and Denzel have been knowing each other since like middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we met in middle school. We were friends through middle school. We went to different high schools.
Yeah.
So we weren't as close throughout high school, but we've known each other for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I can still remember the crowds we ran with in middle school.
Yeah.
You still talk to any of them?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't, other than you and Iman,
Yeah.
I don't think I've spoken to any of them either. That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been knowing each other quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, I didn't know you were were you in ministry or around ministry in middle school?
High school.
So that's when it
school.
started?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you get into it?
I always knew I was called to ministry or preach.
Yeah.
Knew that at a very young age. And I was the kid who during elementary, well, yeah, because it was really around preschool, elementary. I was the kid who, when I went to church, I wasn't interested in children's church or Sunday school. I wanted to see my pastor preach.
Interesting.
Wow.
And I would go home after church and pretend to be a pastor and like preach to my stuffed
Yeah,
animals
yeah,
like they were the congregation. But growing up and just looking at how ministers live their lives, a lot of them were broke. And I didn't want to be, well, they weren't broke to my standards.
Right.
And I didn't want to live like that. So I was always finding like, some different career path. And I just considered it as like a side thing. But I think after going to a revival that was local in the area during my freshman year, this guy was preaching, and when the guy was done preaching, I found out who he was, and the name of the person preaching was Howard John Wesley.
Interesting.
So I heard Pastor Wesley preach, and I was just like amazed with this dude, and so I started following him, or following the church through YouTube, and just listening to him and other ministers or pastors that's in his network. A lot of them answered their call when they were young, like they answered it at 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so seeing their success or
Yeah.
seeing like what they were able to accomplish since answering the call,
Yeah.
that kind of gave me the push, like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try.
Okay.
And so I answered my call at 17.
Wow.
And I've been doing it. I've been doing ministry since.
Wow. That's
In terms of preaching, at least.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're one of my only friends from middle school or high school other than myself that has gone into ministry, which is so
Wow.
interesting to me. Yeah, I'm just like going back through middle school in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, Denzel did carry himself a different way. I can kind of see it now. Like I can see it now looking
Yeah.
back at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I did not accept the calling that young.
Yeah. When did you?
So my father, I don't
Yeah,
know
your
if I,
father
my
does
father's a
ministry.
preacher.
Yeah,
right? So my father's been a preacher, pastor, bishop my whole life. When I was very little, I had aspirations to be a preacher.
Okay.
Mostly because I just wanted to be like dad.
Yeah.
He was a police officer. He was a preacher. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
As I got older, that kind of went away. So by the time I got to high school, I would say those dreams were kind of like fading for me. I had grown up in the church being a PK. I was at church all the time. I
feel
started
that.
to resent it. I didn't want to be there. Got to play the drums every week.
I remember
you
that.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just like I kind of got away from it in high school, and I was like, when I got to high school, I saw all the stuff that he had to go through. I was like, I don't want to be no pastor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at the time, not
Yeah.
understanding the full scope of ministry,
Yeah.
I was like, if I don't want to be a pastor, I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to be around it. So I kind of strayed away from it. Went through high school, got out of high school, got into working and everything. 2020 hit. And right after 2021, I went through a sickness and a bunch of stuff. I can tell you off camera all the stuff, but I went through that, and then I found my own personal faith through that journey, which then ended up bringing me back. And I asked the question, I wonder who that man named Jesus I heard my father talking about all my life.
Wow.
So that's how I came back to it. And I still remember the day. It was June 19th of 2022. I called my dad on the phone and I said, I'm tired of running. And he said, it's about time. So since 2022 is when I actually accepted the calling. Went through ministerial training 2022 into 2023, and then became a licensed minister. And yeah, so here I am now. Started
Okay.
a Christian podcast.
Yeah.
And just trying to spread the word any way I can.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Are you on the ordination track?
so I'm actually starting that this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how long that's going to take, but I am
Okay.
moving towards that. Yeah. So my father has his own organization of churches where he's the presiding bishop. So they're
Oh,
training
yeah,
me
yeah,
up
yeah,
in the I got to go through all the training
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and all that stuff. So I spoke my first sermon. When was that, Eric?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah, last year.
During the summer of last year.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so I've had a couple gigs, and then
Mm-hmm.
I've got one or two lined up for this year. So
Okay.
it's starting to get going. It's starting to get
yeah,
there.
yeah. Welcome to it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you end up back at Alfred Street? Because you were there before, right?
I was there.
Did you
before.
leave for some time, or how did that work?
So I ended up at Alfred Street because my wife. So I'll try to be quick with it.
Yep.
I entered at Alfred Street during
Mhm.
my collegiate career,
Okay.
and then I went to seminary in Connecticut.
Okay.
And then after seminary, well, really during the second year, I started pastoring a church in North Carolina, and at that time things were virtual, so I could be in Connecticut and pastor the church virtually.
Okay.
Once I graduated, I went down to North Carolina. My wife and I continued to pastor the church, and we ended up back in Alexandria because my wife ended up getting pregnant.
Wow.
And during that pregnancy, in addition to being a pastor, I was also a hospital chaplain. So I was working two jobs, and with our family growing, the responsibilities that I had to meet at the hospital and how much I was getting paid with both salaries combined, it wasn't going to be sustainable.
Interesting.
And so I needed to find something, one, where the schedule won't be so demanding and has some flexibility and sustainability. And then two, because we got 3 mouths to feed now, we got to be able to afford things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I started job searching, and I saw that Alfred Street was looking for a new youth pastor after the former one, who I know and I'm really cool with. Her and her husband moved down to North Carolina to now pastor and co-pastor a church. So Alfred Street was looking for a youth pastor. I submitted my application, I think because of that history there, it was like
It just made sense.
it just
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah, it's so interesting because right when you were coming back, I was joining Alfred Street.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you know that my now fiance went
Yeah.
to Alfred Street, so
Yeah.
that's how I got introduced.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in service one day, and you walked in, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, "Is that Denzel?" And she's like, "You know Denzel?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know Denzel."
Yeah.
So, and then I reached out. And I'm so glad we got you on the podcast, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been working on this for a little bit now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm glad you're
Sorry
here.
about the schedule.
No. It's all good. We took almost a year off, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we were away from it for a while, and then we got picked back up
Yeah.
a few months ago. So yeah,
Okay.
we worked it out. You're here
Yeah. I'm happy to be here.
now. Yeah. So today is the season finale
All right.
for our season about emotions.
Mhm.
We have covered what have we covered so far?
We've done depressed. We've done anger. What was it? Oh, anxiety.
Yep.
We've done pride,
Mm-hmm.
joy.
Mm-hmm.
Did we do sadness?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Fear.
Fear.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Many more.
Is that all of them?
I don't know.
We did disappointment.
Okay.
We did that with Trevon.
Yes,
Okay.
that's all.
Yeah. So this leads us to the big one, which we are going to cover today. And Denzel actually says that this is kind of divine in a way, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to let you talk about that for a second. But today we are going to talk about love.
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 Love and all the things to do.
And affection.
I'm done.
The big one.
The big one.
Love. And it's so crazy because not only did you say, hey, I just wrote about love a couple days ago, but this morning I'm listening to the sermon by pastor and he's talking about love, and I'm like, okay, so it's all coming together. So why do you think this is divine? You were just kind of telling me before we started that you had to write about love, or
Yeah. So we're doing Seek,
yeah.
and the theme for Seek is live out love.
Wow.
So the ministers are tasked with writing devotions about love. So I had to write about love, and then coming here and not knowing that we're talking about
That's the thing. We didn't tell them what the
No,
topic
not at
was.
all.
yeah, I had no idea. And then, like you said, pastor spoke about love.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, okay, pastor's probably preparing for Seek as we're now
Yeah.
talking about living out love. And so it was
This
just
is all works
all in
together.
sync. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into love. Let's start with what the world thinks the definition of love is.
talk
Let's see
about
what the internet definition says.
All right.
So when I type it in, the AI comes back with something. Let's see what AI says. AI says a strong, warm feeling of care or romantic feelings for someone. Another one says a deep bond or understanding between people that can include emotional connection, physical attraction, and a desire for a long-term partnership. So those are the first two that come up from the internet. But I want to throw both of y'all under the gun right now.
That's crazy.
What is love? I need the Denzel version. I need the Erica version. What is love?
Okay, I go first. I would say my definition of love is how you treat somebody else, but also your heart. So it's also an action to me. So you can say that you love somebody, but it really all displays in your action. So whether it's like not even just in a romantic way, but if you're just carrying yourself on a day-to-day basis, your actions and your character, your whole persona should represent love. So you're moving in kindness, you're moving in meekness, like you're just your whole thing should be covered in love.
Yeah.
That's my definition.
Okay.
I would agree. And I would add that I think love is a catalyst. I think love. Oh, okay, my fault.
You good?
I think love is a catalyst. I think love compels you to act. I think those actions coincide or align with kindness, warmth, comfort, security, care. I think they're all tied. And I don't know if you mentioned it, but it being a noun or a verb, it's like how can you describe love?
Love almost doesn't have a definition.
Love almost doesn't have the
doesn't, yeah.
definition.
It's almost an intangible thing.
It's an intangible thing. Like so I like the way Al Green says it. Love can make you do wrong, do right. Like it makes you do something. It's a catalyst.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Love can make you act a fool. It can make you act crazy. It can make you think you're going crazy. It can make you do stuff you never thought you would do, say things you never thought you would say.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. I don't think there's a specific way to describe love.
Yeah.
I think you can't really know love until you've experienced it. Here on earth, I think the purest form of love on earth is a mother's love for her child. That's my opinion. And then obviously we learn that God is love, and we can get into that in a second. But if I had to come up with my own personal, I guess, description of love, it would have three components. It's a feeling, usually starts with a feeling. Then there's a choice that you have to make. And then there's the commitment to that choice. That's how I would describe it, I guess. The choice being when you truly love somebody or something, things are going to change and fluctuate throughout the relationship.
That's true.
And you have to continue to choose to love over and over and over and over again. So that's where I say the commitment comes in, is you're committing yourself to the choice that you made.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with both of you. I don't think you can really describe what love is. I think you have to feel it. So a question for both of you. Do you believe that love can exist without trust?
No.
Explain.
Let me take that back. I said that too fast. Because I got family members who I love, but I won't trust.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have to agree with that. I ideally you don't want love without trust.
Of course.
But like you just said, in some cases you love an individual, but you know for a fact you cannot trust them.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain family members, certain friends that you love, that you adore, that you care for, that you want the best for, but
Yeah.
you know you can't trust them.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Erica?
1000%. They're like what you guys were saying about family members and stuff. There's also some family members that we have to distance ourselves from, but the love that we're showing them is because they have to get healing. So it would be necessary for us to love them from a distance. So, I mean, yeah, you can love without trusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. How do you know when you truly love a person? Or a thing. It doesn't even have to be a person.
Or a thing.
Yeah. Or love something. How do you know when it's actually, when it crosses that line into love?
I just came from using this Ninja Woodfire grill that my wife just bought me. I'm in love.
Wait, you not a girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I smoked some chicken.
I'm gonna hit you up.
All right.
What chips do you
Don't worry
use?
about it.
Huh?
What wood chips do you use?
What was it? It was apple.
Ooh.
Yeah, because it came with it. I didn't buy my own since it came with it.
Okay.
But I was in the cold, grilling and smoking meat. So I know I love this thing because I mean it was smelling good. It was great. Like I know I love it. So that's how I know I love the thing.
Yeah.
And I think even with relationships, when I think of love and what I'm willing to withstand, I think of not the toxic stuff or the BS in terms of withstand, but what I'm willing to go through or what I'm willing to address that's difficult for me when I look at me,
Yeah.
so that I can show up in a way that is healthy to the relationships that I share love with.
Yeah. I think the same thing. When you start working on you, that's when you know it's love.
Yeah.
And just, we can talk about romantic relationships for a second. But like for myself, when I knew I loved this individual, it was like the first time I asked myself, what can you do different? And specifically for me, it was really hard because there were a lot of things in myself that I hadn't worked on or had neglected or, thought I was right about, and it was the other person's fault. But the first time I looked at me and was like, no, you need to be better. You need to change something. You need to do something. I was like, I think I might love this person.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Eric?
No, I agree with the both of you. I would say for me is also to like looking at yourself and realizing like your flaws and the different things that you have to work on. As well as that I would start to put that person first. So whether it's like going out of my way to make sure like they're just have whatever they need, my actions would start to shift in a way of like I would want to make sure that you're okay. And that's how I would start to know like, okay, I'm looking at myself, what am I doing? Like how can I like better myself, just like even as a woman of God, how can I better myself to basically do what I'm supposed to do? But then at the same time I start putting that person first. That's how I know like, okay, I got the LOVE feelings for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you all feel loved? What I mean by that is like, maybe give an example or just talk about in your own life, what types of things make you feel loved? And this kind of goes into Pastor's sermon this morning, talking about the love languages and all that stuff. But what makes you feel loved?
For me, I would say action. So I'm really driven on like, I don't go off of words at all. So if a person is telling me like, oh, I love you, I would expect it through acts like for like the love languages, acts of service or quality time. So whether it's like us just talking with each other, you can feel it through that.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say like that's how I would perceive it as love.
What you think?
I think all of them.
Yeah.
I want it all. I
All
want
of
the
them.
gifts, the acts of service.
Why you start with gifts though?
No, I feel that. No, I feel that one.
Because I just used my grill.
I got it.
Yeah. Gifts, love. What is it? Gifts, acts of service,
Quality time.
quality time, physical touch,
Yeah.
words of affirmation. And I don't even
That's
know
the
if I
big
have a. Yeah, I don't know if I have a set order. I don't know. I realize now, like, yo, I like all these things.
Yeah.
I didn't used to care about it before, but as
Yeah.
I pay attention to me now, I like all of them.
That's very interesting that you say that. Like getting into serious relationship, I thought I had certain ones, but the more time goes on, I also like, no, I also want that.
Yeah,
I want some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Pastor said something very interesting today. And he was just basically talking about in relationship, whether it be romantic or otherwise, that it's more important for you to know how the other individual, whether that be a family member or a spouse or whoever, how they receive love than it is for you to know your own love languages.
Yeah, that's true.
How has that played a role in your relationships?
How the person has perceived love?
No,
Or-
but the fact that you have to know other people's love languages in order to love them in the way that they need.
It can be challenging because then you also deal with people that don't know their love language. So it's more of like I would have to figure it out. It can be tough.
That's an interesting thought. How do you deal with somebody who doesn't know their own love languages?
in chaplaincy, we had this thing called care gates. Care gates is when someone tells you something and you assess based on what they tell you, what do you think the need is? You mirror back that need. So like if somebody is telling you that I feel fine. I wish things were different, but for the most part I feel fine. The care gate would be, okay, they're missing something. So you mirror back to them, sounds like you're missing something. You could be wrong, you could be right, but then they'll confirm or deny, and then that's how you start assessing, or that's how you start unfolding what their need or love language or resource that they might be in need of.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I had never thought about that, dealing with the individual who doesn't know their own love languages.
Yeah.
But that's a good thought, just trying to assess what the need is.
Yeah, assess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good thought.
Or you could just ask explicitly.
Yeah.
Literally.
You could.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What love language do you think you're the best at expressing towards other individuals? Do you think you do acts of service good? Do you think you're good with quality time? What do you think your best one is?
I would say for me, acts of service and gift giving. Quality time, I like quality time, but then there's some times where I'm like, I need my space. So just let me go and be a girl somewhere outside of you. So I would definitely say like quality. Also words of affirmation. I'm really like, yeah.
Same. That would be my words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Well, you're a preacher, so I would hope you give your words.
Yeah. Well, no, all preachers are different though with their
They
love
are.
languages.
They are.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But you're good with your words, though.
Yeah,
You can put them together.
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so, and this is where I'm going with this, because personally, I would say the best love language that I'm good at is acts of service. It's doing. My fiance doesn't always want that.
I get
She
that.
prioritizes other love languages. And where I'm going with this is, what do you do when there's that discrepancy? Have you dealt with that?
Yeah.
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 How'd you deal with it?
So my wife, I can't remember specifically what it was, but she would. So my wife likes to. She can be very playful and touchy with me, and I started to realize that her thing was physical touch because that's what she kept giving to me. But that's not like some of the physical touch. I had to be like, yo, I don't want all that. Or if you do it
Yes.
differently.
Yeah.
It don't feel good.
Yeah.
But that's how she expresses love. And she shared that with me. Like, this is how I give love. And then over time I realized, okay, so she likes physical
Right.
touch. And so it goes back to that chaplaincy thing. Like, I feel like what I could be wrong, but I think what people give kind of gives you a clue
As to
of
what
what
they
they, yeah,
That's
this is
true,
what they
yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
definitely true. And then I think that's where like the whole emotional intelligence piece comes in is as a partner or as a family member or whatever the case is, you have to then know, hey, just because I'm giving this doesn't mean that's what they need. Even if that's
Right.
what I want and that's why I'm giving it, I have to try to dig deeper to figure out what it is that they need.
Yeah.
And that's not easy
No.
because it's especially if, how can I say this? Especially if they have a need or their love language is one thing and you're not necessarily good at that, or you don't necessarily know how to do that on a consistent basis.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the physical touch. If you're not a real physical touch person, it's not the easiest thing in the world to
Yeah.
just
Yep.
always give
Yeah.
Yep.
physical touch.
Agree.
But then you hear them saying that's what they want and that's what they need. So that's where the whole, and I think that's what love is, to some degree. It's like you have to then be willing to say, even if I don't want that, I don't like that,
Yeah.
that's not what I need, I have to try to figure out how to give my partner or my family member or whoever what it is that they need.
Yeah.
It's a practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that love is it's an action thing.
It's an action.
You're
Yep.
always doing
Yep.
when it comes to love. Let's see here. I'm working through my questions. We're getting through this. Let's see what we got. How does love change over time? Do you think love changes?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
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 Love is constantly changing, in my opinion. It goes to how you would show stranger love towards like a family member, towards your significant other. It's always changing every single day. So it's like, in order for you to even meet the person where they need to be met at, like you have to, you just have to change. So your emotion is going to change. Like your just whole perspective is going to change each and every day of how you're going to show up for those people. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about relationship with family, relationship with friends, and relationship with my partner. And I think having a son too definitely shapes how I love or show up in love with other people. So the time that I used to spend with other family members or other friends, that looks like my love through quality time looks different now because I have somebody else in play. So there's various things that cause love to change over time in terms of how it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing because, for example, let's just take family members for a second. There may be, and I know like even in my own life, there was a time where I was very close with certain family members, saw them all the time, was around them. My life's, has switched since then. I have a fiance now, I have a job, I have a life here in Virginia. A lot of my family's in Michigan, and it doesn't mean that I don't love them. I still love them, but my life has changed. So the way that they see that love for me is very different.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing in relationships for people to know, is just that just because the action of the love changes doesn't mean the love itself
Right. Yeah.
has changed. Yeah, I think that's think that's big in what you were just talking about, like with having a child, your priorities change.
Right.
It don't mean you don't love somebody no more because you can't spend time, the same amount of time with them. Yeah, so I would have to agree that I think the action of love changes over time, depending on where you are in life, depending on what's going on.
And I think it should.
Yes.
I think love should evolve.
Yeah.
Love should mature. It should grow. It should develop. I think a lot of us just struggle, and it goes into emotional intelligence. I think
Yeah.
a lot of us struggle with change in general.
1000%.
And so when love starts showing up different than how we're accustomed to,
Yeah.
it's really difficult for people to digest. Like
That's true.
good.
even
Yeah.
if we think about us and our parents as we became adults or as we graduated college, there's a image or vision our parents have for us that becomes difficult for us in our relationships with them because we're not little so and so like we used to be.
Yeah.
And so how do you now show love in that relationship as both of you are in different stages of your life?
That's true.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind while you were talking, the thing that comes to mind is even with how God deals with us. In certain moments, God love is very gentle. It's kind. It's warm. You're like, hey, pops, how you doing? And then other times it's like, I told you
Yep.
to stop doing that. So now you got to pay a consequence.
1000%.
I think that's a big part of love too. Is love is just not always the warm, flowery feeling.
Right.
If you truly love an individual, there are times where you have to chastise them. There are times where you have to critique
honest,
them.
yep.
Be honest. That's the best way to put it. So I think love changes in that way too. Specifically because you love the person.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing for individuals, is to accept that love, that criticism or to recognize that as love. Let me say
Right.
it that way. How have you guys dealt with that in your lives specifically? Like, maybe from a parent or a friend where that love changed on you. Like, you might have a friend, you're real close at one point, everything's good, you're always hanging out, you're always laughing, and then all of a sudden one day they're serious with you, telling you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be smoking, and you're like, oh, whoa. Have you all dealt with that? Seeing love changed from other individuals towards you specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say in the sense that you were just describing, but also in another way, when you're younger, how you perceive love is what you were seeing from your parents. So as I got older, I started to come into an understanding of truly what love is. So then you can start to point out and you can start to really see, okay, was what I was receiving when I was younger actually love? So as I got older, I started to see, okay, this love that it could be a parent, it could be an uncle, an aunt. The love that they were showing me is not a form of love. So the love over time, it did change. So because I then started to realize that some people just don't have the capacity to love you in the way that you need to be loved. So for me, I did see a change when I started to come into realization and start to really point it out to the other individuals, like, no, this is not really what I need. So the love that I have to now display is me taking a step back from you and putting up a boundary now. So the love overall, it affected the whole relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that dog got something to say about love.
No, for real.
Yeah. I doubt they can hear it on the recording, but there is a dog barking
Yeah.
in the background. for
Going
us.
crazy.
Yeah, right.
And he's like,
right.
I'm in love too.
Erica, you brought up some good points. What kept coming up for me is how over time, when you're doing your own work or just going through different things, how over time you start to see some relationships are more conditional than you realize.
Right.
When you take away certain conditions, it's interesting to see, I guess, the lack of love that people start giving you because you're not meeting the conditions that they're
Right.
used to loving you in or loving you as. And I could totally relate to that with, again, family, friends. And it's difficult to navigate.
It is.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Iman has a question. What's Iman's question?
So, as we are both in a fraternal like
There it
organization.
is. Say so on January 5th.
Yeah. So, like going into Alpha, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like some of your family members or your peers or even members of the church started looking at you like in a different light? And did it, like, in this conversation of love, how did like it affect the love that most of them gave to you after seeing you join this organization?
So I sense from that question, your context and mine, my context will be different because both churches that I attended, and actually all the churches I grew up and attended, were filled with folks who were Greek. So it was like, we just upset you didn't pledge Kappa or Q, but congratulations. So I got this embrace. Now I will say I think the image or memory that comes to my mind when I think of where I received chastisement for things that were going well, I'm thinking about when I was in high school. I was a freshman, and we had international night.
Yeah.
Y'all had international night too at Hilton. Yeah. So we had one at Potomac, and I emceed, and my head just swelled. Like, I thought so high of myself because I was able to MC, and I had friends who thankfully pulled me to the side and was like, yo, chill. Chill. So that was something that I needed. But I will say there are instances where you do have things that align with what you want, but again, because it's not what other people want for you, that's when they give you their critique. And you got to be careful of discerning what is actually critique that is filled with love, and that actually wants to see me do well, and what is critique because I'm no longer fitting that mold or idea that you had of me to fit.
That's good.
Yeah. That's a really, really good point. How do you discern the difference between the two? Because I've experienced that specifically, like when you get into a certain space in life where you start seeing a certain amount of success, or you start getting certain things, or whatever the case is, all of a sudden somebody's critiquing you, and you're like, hold on, what's the thing behind that? So how exactly can you discern the difference between the two? Is it filled with love? Is they doing that because they care about you, or are they doing that because they're trying to bring you down a notch because they don't like to see you above where they are?
For me, I would say that you can start to see it in action, whether it be also in majority of the words that they will say to you. So if you're doing something, for instance, you have a promotion, this person might become jealous or envious of you, but their words will come off as, oh, I'm so happy for you. But maybe, are you really sure that this is really what you want to do? Or basically trying to talk you out of something when you know that this is something that you want to do. This is something that you were meant to do. They'll try their best in every way possible to try to either deter you, try to discourage you, or try to make you feel guilty for something that you're trying to better yourself in. That's how I would say, like, you can start to, you just got to listen.
Yeah.
Listen to what they're saying in their tone and their frequency. You have to really, really pay attention to what they're saying. Read between the lines. Then you're going to get it.
Yeah. Habit and character.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll show itself over time. Like, people are who they are. You're going to see what they represent, what they value in some shape or form. It's just a matter of you being open to see that.
Right.
Cause everything could be right there, but if you not open to see it, then you gonna miss it.
That's a fact.
How do y'all deal with people who say they love you but their actions don't line up? Can I kind of throw that one out there real quick?
Yeah.
I would say for me, I don't really have a filter like that. So I can be straight up with a person. Like, okay, you're saying one thing, but your actions are not lining up with your words. So what's really going on here?
Yeah.
Or if I see that it's not something that I need in my life, I'll just tell you straight up, this is not going to, we're not going in the same way.
Yeah.
Like, I respect you, cool. Thank you for what you've done right now, but that's just not where I'm going. So, deuces.
This is a Christ-focused podcast.
No, it's called Christ culture. We mix Christ
Oh,
with culture. It's both.
It's both. Praise God.
For real.
Yeah. So the question is, how do I say the question one more time?
How do you deal with people who say they love you but their actions don't line up?
Depending on the situation, I'll call them out, or I don't bother with them. I just
feel
don't pay
that.
them. I just won't pay them no mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow-up question. Have you ever wanted somebody to love you that
Yes.
they didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It hurts. I would say it definitely hurts. For me, growing up, I would just say, like, with my biological grandmother, because God will place other people in your life to fill that role. That's actually going to be a parent or a grandmother to you. So my biological grandmother, I was craving that attention, that love, that I seen everybody else have. Like, oh, their grandparents are like baking cookies. Like, you know what you would normally hear.
Yeah.
I never had that. So I would try to, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to do this? Like, enforce myself to try to make that person love me. But in that time frame, I start to become hurt. I start to look at myself like, did I do something wrong? Or why is it this person showing me the love that I want? So it can start to make you feel really, really bad about yourself. But then as I got older, I had to realize that, one, if a person wanted to love you, they would love you. So you should not have to force yourself into absolutely anything, because when that time comes, it's going to come. If you trust and believe God, you just got to be patient.
Yeah.
Then it's going to come.
Yeah. It's definitely discouraging. It definitely, for me, made me second guess myself a
Right.
number of times. Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you meet this need, or why can't you show up the way I'm asking? And over time, through therapy and processing, I learned, okay, I'll create it myself. Since it won't come to me the way I want, what do I want it to look like, and how can I curate this? And eventually, through doing so, and it's still a practice, that's where I started finding, okay, of course with God, but I can also fulfill my need,
Yeah.
even if I don't have the people I like. I don't need them like I thought. I'm capable.
Yeah. Yeah. Wanting somebody to love you who doesn't love you is a terrible feeling. And oftentimes you can start to, how can I say it? You can start to almost manipulate your own self.
Yep.
That's
Because
true.
you're almost trying to convince yourself that you're
Yep.
not seeing what you're actually seeing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're saying stuff and they're doing stuff to directly tell you that they don't love you like that, but you can kind of convince yourself that they do because that's what you want. And at the end of the day, you're only hurting yourself.
That is so true.
Especially in like situations where people are using you for
Yeah.
whatever the case is.
Yeah.
It can do a lot of damage to you that you don't know in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and until after the relationship, and then you realize like, oh, I was being used,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
yeah. it's a horrible feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You just put it that way. But I want to switch over for a second. We've kind of covered so many emotions now. We've talked about love. I want to wrap this conversation up, just kind of going into like the emotional intelligence side of things, just to kind of wrap all the emotions up. And I just want to start with like, how do you all typically handle strong emotions? Like when you feel any emotion that's overwhelming you or whatever, what are the things that you do to handle those emotions?
Yeah. Denzel, I'm gonna let you answer that.
Yeah, because he sounded like he had something come up in his mind.
Yeah. My initial way of handling it, it's not always the best because I will either emotionally withdraw. Or shut down, and I harbor these emotions, and then it blows up. So that is what used to happen. But what I've started doing, new year, new me. what I've been doing and have been practicing, and I think getting better at, is learning to name what I'm feeling in the moment, and doing it in a way that's not aggressive, and apologizing or cleaning it up later.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather you,
Okay.
and at least I do this with Addie. I'd rather you know how I'm feeling, or I'd rather express like, sweetheart, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Dealt with and sometimes still deal with a lot of what you were just talking about, especially like the emotional withdrawal. That's like my go-to. And I've been like that much of my life. So it's a difficult thing to kind of get away from. But yeah, I definitely, when dealing with those strong emotions, a lot of the times I withdraw. A lot of the times now it's because I have to, because I know that I'll blow up if I don't. If I don't step away, it's going to go in the direction, it's not going to be good. So yeah, a lot of the times I withdraw kind of to myself, have to kind of try to work through some of the emotions until I get to a stable point, and then I can come back to it. Erica, what about you? How do you deal with them?
Before therapy, it wasn't good. After, still working on different things. For me, I have to ask myself, like mentally go over these questions, like in the moment of something happening, is it worth it? Because then I can start working myself up. I have a choice in that moment. So I have to ask myself, okay, do I want to basically put myself in a position of where now I'm gonna have an attitude with you? I don't want to be bothered with you no more. And then I'm gonna emotionally withdraw. And then if it's really bad, I mean, I really just don't want to be around you, period. I can make a choice if I'm going to put myself in that situation, or am I just going to let that person, if they're mad, let them be mad by themselves. So overall, I would say now I kind of deal with it and stepping back, analyzing the whole situation, whether it's like me just going to take time to myself, express to them how exactly I'm feeling and that I need time. And sometimes I can't emotionally withdraw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to offer something that I learned through chaplaincy, and I think it's relevant because I think we all are guilty of the emotional withdrawal. There's this book, I forgot the author, last name is Schwartz, but it's called No Bad Parts. And the thing I learned through chaplaincy is that we all our emotions are parts.
Yep.
And culturally, people of color have been trained, unfortunately, to see parts of themselves as bad.
That's true.
Yeah.
A way this shows up is, and you probably experience it in church, when you are going through something or are sad, people love to prescribe scripture. They love to give you advice. They love to tell you it's going to be all right. Everything's going to be better.
Yeah.
Sitting with what's difficult or what's large when it doesn't feel good is not something that we are fully equipped to do.
Yeah.
So what we used to do with chaplaincy is when you feel some way, your body tells you.
Yeah.
So you'll either feel, if you feel a lot in your head, you most likely got something going on in your mind. If you're feeling something in your stomach, you're probably anxious or you're
Exactly.
nervous.
Yeah.
If you're feeling your shoulders high up, you're probably like really tense and you might need to relax. And so we checked in with our body parts, and when our body gave us the signals that something's going on, we would talk to our inner child or talk to our parts to figure out, okay, you're feeling sadness. Sadness, come up for a minute, let's talk. Why are you feeling sad? Sadness will, and this is just like my own inner processing I used to do. Sadness will probably say, I feel sad because this happened and this makes me feel scared. There's usually an idea attached to emotion. And so I guess what I'm offering is, when we have these big emotions, I'm curious of what our community will look like if we learn the skills to actually embrace all of the emotions without shunning them, and how to let them have voice to speak, and what we can learn from what they're feeling, and how we can be in harmony while still feeling this
good.
big emotion,
Yeah.
such as disappointment or anger or rage or fear.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting, and I think in a lot of ways that's happening in current society is that we're starting to learn those types of things through things just like this. An individual who has gone through the training that you've gone through, and then you share it with others. I think about it just like, back in the slavery times, when certain individuals didn't know how to read or write, the ones who did had to teach them.
Right.
And then more learn how to read and write and so forth and so on. And I think that's a big thing happening into society today, is with more individuals going through therapy and going through different things like that, where it's okay now, and then sharing those things with others. I know personally for me, that's a big way that I've learned a lot about emotions, is from those who have done that work, and then they shared it with me.
Yeah.
Because even a lot of our parents or grandparents, they didn't have the environment where they could do that work, so they couldn't teach us. So then we're just repeating what we saw from them. So I think that's happening a lot now. But the other thing that came up while you were talking was just the idea that, and I want to ask you both this, do you find that when you truly love an individual, all those emotions are amplified?
Yeah.
And what I
Yeah,
mean by that
For
is,
sure.
somebody could say something to you that you don't like, but if they're not that close to you,
Yeah.
it only hits you a certain. But if somebody that you love says it, it's
Yeah.
like this enraging. It's like, how could you possibly? So yeah, just the fact that love amplifies all those different emotions. Have you experienced that?
Absolutely. And when it comes, I've
1000%.
been thinking to myself, it'll be a miracle if we make it to the next year.
For real.
This girl is getting on my nerves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so amplified. What
Yeah.
about you?
For sure. For me, like in the moment, if I'm just thinking like straight off of emotion, oh, you don't love me no more? Okay. But no, like you were saying, love is definitely more amplified when it's coming from somebody that is close to you.
Yeah.
I guess it's because they see all of your flaws, and when they point it out, you're in a more vulnerable state, and it's more of like an accountability thing. About now somebody's holding you accountable, it doesn't feel good to you. So you don't really know how to perceive it.
Yeah,
It's also tied to where you feel deeply about something. You will also feel deeply on the opposite end of that. So if you are feeling deep, if you feel, how I put it, for you to feel deep joy, a part of you has to feel deep sadness
I feel you on
for that deep joy to really
Yeah.
be powerful. So likewise, you have this deep love for someone, you are equally going to have like deep rage when they get on your nerves.
Yeah,
So
that's very interesting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when you were talking, how everything's so amplified.
So
When
amplified.
you love a person, it's like somebody put a speaker on it.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Put the
yeah.
lights on you.
Yeah, because it's so intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last question I got here, then we'll go to E for a couple questions.
All right.
How do you ensure that your emotions don't interfere with your decision making?
That's good.
Because it's very easy to let happen.
Oh, for sure.
If you're in a certain mind state, from an argument or from, something that's happened that's got you riled up, and all of a sudden you got to make decisions. How do you control that?
You want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just say this real quick. Funny thing. I was talking to my sister the other day. She gonna kill me when she sees this. I was talking to my sister the other day, and we were kind of talking about this in a weird way, but I was asking her, like, how do her and her husband deal with each other when they're mad at each other. And she was like, "Oh, I'll order DoorDash and then ask him if he." She said, "I'll ask him if he wants some, and if he don't answer back in 1 second, I click place order so he don't get nothing."
Oh, that's wrong.
Yo, that's petty.
That's wrong.
I was like, "That's trifling."
Yo, that's petty.
That's wrong.
But like, I just think about little moments like that, and like, say me and my fiance are mad at each other about something, but it's like, I still got to cook us dinner. We got to eat. Like, so how do you balance that, making the decisions in those moments where your emotions are not in a stable place?
I would say if it's a situation like that, like where you would have to cook or take care of something like around the house,
Yeah.
you got to do it regardless. If it's like a major decision, do not act in that moment. So if you're feeling an emotion of like you're angry or something, don't act on anything. Because when you're doing that, obviously your vision is altered. So you're seeing things like we were talking about, you're seeing things way more amplified than it actually is. So if I'm going to now be driven off of this emotion that I'm feeling, I'm going to basically screw everything up. Whatever the decision that I'm trying to make, it's not going to be correct. So don't act on emotion. Like the word says, don't lean on your own understanding. So you can be perceiving something as one way, but even if you're feeling that, you go to God and you ask him, okay, I'm feeling like this. I need you to take over.
Yeah.
And take a second, go take a nap, go eat like a cookie, go do something, and then come back. And then by that time when you're calm and like your emotions are leveled down, make that decision, but with God. And when you're ready, not in that moment.
Yeah. Has anybody ever seen Cross?
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
Oh, good.
That was so good.
Wait, is that the show on Prime? The TV
Yeah.
show?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
That was
All right,
good.
y'all gotta watch that tonight.
Okay.
So Cross likes to talk to himself every now and then,
Right.
And I tend to do the same thing.
Are you cross now?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. All this Hodge is my doppelganger. So I talk to myself a lot. I'll either, if I'm in my car and I'm by myself,
Yeah.
I might just yell. Like I
No,
might
I
just
feel
like,
that.
I go off, like,
Yeah.
just go off. If I'm
Jerk
walking
your car
the
a little
dog-
bit.
Yeah, if I'm walking the dogs, I'll have my headphones in so that folks think I'm on the phone when I'm really just talking to myself as I'm walking them. And that's how I'm kind of processing my emotion. And then when I'm done processing, then I ask myself, okay, all right, let's get to the facts. What are the facts? Will this work or will it won't? Is this a good move or is it not? All right, if the data and if the facts line up, okay, we can work on the emotion stuff, but sense makes sense. Like go
Right.
with what makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel that.
I think I agree kind of with both of you. The thing that I'll offer is this. I've done all the testing. I got it figured out for men. I don't know about women, but I got it figured out for men. I've been testing this in the relationship. If you feel overwhelmed with emotion, I'm creating right now the 36-hour rule. If you wait 36 hours before you act, you will feel a lot better and you will make a better decision. Every time that I've done that, it has worked. When I'm angry, when I'm mad, when I'm overwhelmed, if I give it 36 hours, my emotions stabilize. And then I'm in a much better place to make a decision.
that's fair.
some decisions don't require 36 hours,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying for the ones where you're like real angry and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm about to leave this relationship. I don't give it 36 hours. I bet you won't.
That's
be like
fair.
that.
Yeah.
I can rock with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
36 hours.
Yeah.
Let's go to some questions real quick. Our old buddy E's in the house. You got any questions for us?
First question. Because we spoke on emotional intelligence, but we didn't really speak on emotional constancy. Which is kind of a different thing. Do I need to explain emotional constancy before we begin?
Say, what is it? Emotion?
Emotional constancy.
What is
Say,
that?
I never heard that.
Yeah.
So it just refers to the ability to maintain a stable emotional state
Okay.
and consistent emotional responses in various situations,
Okay.
particularly in relationships.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, real quick. You go by the mic so we can hear you.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, that's what emotional constancy is. I'll say it one more time. Emotional constancy refers to the ability to maintain a stable emotional state and consistent emotional responses in various situations, particularly in relationships. So yeah, that's emotional constancy. Okay. Now my question is, what connection do you see between self-love and emotional constancy in relationships?
Yeah. It's hard for me to be stable with my love for another individual when I'm struggling with the love for myself. I've dealt with that personally. Like I can see that for sure. In the moments where I don't like myself a lot, I'm willing to bet that it's being reflected towards other individuals. So I would say that self-love plays a big part. You have to make sure you're okay. You have to make sure you're emotionally stable, that you love what you see when you look in the mirror. Because if you don't, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to love somebody else or to display that love for somebody else in the correct way.
I would definitely agree with exactly what you said. There's been so many times where I have not felt as good about myself, like you were saying. I cannot show up for somebody else if I am struggling in that area. There's no way that I can help you. If I'm depressed, I cannot help you at all. I can't pull you out of anything. So if I'm working through something, it's better for me to continue that self-work and then be able to be emotionally available for somebody else to process how they feel, how to take it into consideration. But if I can't do that with myself, I can't show up for you.
And I think that does require whatever that hard work is for you to accept yourself and embrace yourself. Like you got to be willing to do that work because it's inescapable. It's inescapable for most of us who have goals, who have values, who have dreams. It's inescapable to try to get there and not be in community and not be in relationship with other people. So for you to have that emotional constancy, self-love it's more than just affirmations. It's addressing what's standing in the way. What is the barrier that keeps causing you to have this self-hatred that keeps reappearing?
Yeah. I would even go as far as to say, if you are treating another individual badly or you're not showing up like you know you should be, 9 times out of 10 is probably because you don't like something about yourself right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could agree with that.
What else you got? E?
In your opinion, can emotional constancy be learned, or is it an innate quality or natural quality?
I would say it can be learned because I'm learning it. To show up consistently, emotionally and in love, I think you can learn it. But again, I think it has to be a combination. Number one, you have to want to. Number two, you have to have the resources, whether that be therapy or whether that be somebody who's done the emotional work to kind of teach you some of the things that they now know. I think you have to have the proper resources, but I think it can be learned.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's innate because, like, I learned recently that children's emotions aren't fully regulated until like what I think they're 25 or something. So so innately you have this irregulation. There's nothing really constant. Um sorry. You have this irregulation. There's nothing really constant. So eventually I guess it does become innate where things start to stabilize. But even through that, I suspect that you will still have to learn because you've spent most of your life kind of, through this irregularity.
Yeah. I think some of it comes with maturity, just getting older.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the nuance of emotion almost has to be learned. Like, I don't think you can just figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe you could, but it probably would take a long time.
Yeah.
Trial and
Mess
error.
up a few times.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some SOS and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
All right, so we got Oh, my fiance says she has a question.
Hey, fiance.
So
Hey.
she has a kid. I can't go on without answering the question. I'll be in trouble.
So you guys talked a little bit about like what to do when someone is like not loving you the way that you want to be loved. I had a question about how do you deal with people that may not have received love in their life, so they don't know how to love. And as Christians, how do you apply principles from like Matthew 18, like about offense, going and taking it to your brother, forgiving like 77 times
7
and
million.
then also
One question at a time, babe.
and then also principles. These are principles. How do you apply these principles? And then like love, grace, and mercy of Christ. How do you apply that to dealing with people that may not know how to love because they didn't receive love in life, or they're just not loving you the way that you want to be loved?
That's a good question.
I would love to answer since I deal with church folk on a regular, ongoing basis. So patience is the thing that kept coming up. Like, okay, I have to be very patient, but again, it goes into that self. I wouldn't even say love, just checking in with myself. Like, I have to keep myself together because if I'm not together, something is going to trigger me, and I'm going to act a fool because I know how church folk are. There are things that are just triggering to me, and that's human nature. So like, you're always going to get triggered, but you have to name and be aware that this is a trigger, but this is not the person. So separate the two. And yeah, like I'm gonna keep emphasizing and preaching that work because that's how you sustain relationships, especially with people who have offended you, who've done wrong. You got to know that a trigger is a trigger, but it's not who that person is. And then you got to be careful not to project your stuff or your ideas on that person because you don't know anything about those people most times. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know how exactly they came to be, why they received what they received. But when you are triggered again, check in with yourself.
Yeah. When dealing with people who may have not known how to love, that was the question, right? They don't know how to, or they never saw it. I think the first thing you have to do is evaluate whether or not they actually have the capacity to love you in the way that you need to be loved. Because maybe the answer is just that's just not the person. You just need to find a different person to love you in whatever way it is that you need. I think the next part of it is exactly what you were talking about with the scripture is grace. Is the biggest thing that stood out to me. If a person doesn't know something, they can never do something. So you have to give them that grace, maybe extend resources for them to learn it, or to see it, or maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Model it or demonstrate it in front of them so that they can see it. Sometimes people accept that. Sometimes they just keep doing what they're doing. But those are the two biggest things that I would say. Evaluate whether or not they have the capacity, show them grace, and then model or demonstrate it in front of them.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I would say for me, being in ministry, you definitely have to show people grace, whether it's a bishop, whoever it is. Those people are still learning as they go, and they're still a human. So you still have to give them grace, and you still have to be patient with really everybody in the church, because if you're going to church, half of the time you're broken. Like, you go there because you're missing something. You want God to heal you, make you whole. So you're going to a hospital. So those people, whether it's somebody higher up, they're going to also be going through different things. So you have to be patient with them. And like you were saying, you have to kind of step back and see, okay, if it's somebody older from like an older generation, did they have this? Did they not have this? If they didn't, then okay, you already know how to move from there. They don't have the emotional capacity to deal with you. So, I mean, you would just have to be patient, but also take a step back and realize that it's not about you, and take yourself out of it and realize that this person might just be speaking from a place of hurt.
I would also add clarity about roles and responsibilities. So what came up to me when you talked about Calvin, maybe they don't, I think you said they don't know how to give you the love, or they don't know how to love because, what'd you say? Do you I think I heard you say they don't know how to love because, you know, of what they received or they didn't receive, and how that shows up for you. What came up to me is, what responsibility am I giving you that you probably don't deserve? Like,
That's
I
good.
think we are good at making people responsible for doing things for us
Yeah.
that they have no business
Yeah.
doing.
That's good.
I see it all the time with ministers. There's a responsibility. People have this idea, you know, ministers should be taking care of me in this particular kind of way.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, why is it my response? Like, if you just why? I'm just curious as to
And
why. Like,
I think that's exactly what I was getting at when I was saying you have to evaluate whether or not they have the
they
capacity.
have the
Exactly.
capacity. Like,
Yeah.
is that your role?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the role that they should be playing in your life?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times the thing with that is people are just looking for somebody to play that role.
To fill a void.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
and then they just
good.
assign it to
They
somebody.
just assign it.
and then
Get mad when they don't meet the role that they assign.
Yeah, it's an unmet
It's
expectation.
an
at this-
unmet expectation.
So
Yep.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good
All right.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. SOS now?
SOS.
That's
All right, so let me explain to what
Okay.
SOS is. We give you a random topic. It can be absolutely anything. It
Okay.
can be bubblegum. It can be I got toilet tissue one time. It can be anything.
Okay.
Then we're going to put you on a clock, give you 60 seconds, and you have to give us a 60-second sermon about that topic.
His face completely changed.
Wow. Okay.
All right. So we'll make Erica go first.
Okay.
Oh, that's wild, actually.
You're familiar with this. I got to see how it's done.
Okay, E, give me a topic for her. Give me a topic for her.
Oh, a topic.
Yeah.
Don't do something crazy.
I'm not gonna do anything crazy. Sea salt.
Sea salt.
Pizza. Oh, okay.
Sea salt.
I was gonna say what?
The salt in the sea. You got the timer, E?
Yep.
Ready, go.
So when you take salt as it's in the sea, and you have multiple fish that swim in the different parts. So you have fresh water, then you have the salt water. So you have to realize that the two are separated. So when you have two bowls and you have the fish that are divided, like the freshwater and the saltwater fish, those two cannot mix. So you have to realize when you're in Christ and when you are a child of God, God is going to set you apart. He's going to make you the little flavor over the earth. you're set apart. You can't fit in with everybody. You can't go to where other people are going to, and they can't go where you're going to. So you have to be okay with standing out on that fresh or the salt water alone, and realizing that you are supposed to make an impact. Yeah. Jesus wept.
Yeah.
Amen.
Bro.
All right, Denzel, you are our guest. I will let you decide. Do you want to go second or you want to go last?
He going second.
I'm gonna go last.
You want to go last? Okay.
Yeah, let me go last.
All right, E, what you got?
I'm still thinking.
We're gonna put you to work if you're gonna be here.
He said, touch my soul. Waves.
Oh, what
I
was
should have
that?
gone second.
Waves? Like waves in your hair or in the water?
Both of them.
Both
of them?
Oh.
That's a good one.
Waves.
How you give him waves and me?
You see, so
That's
they in the
crazy.
same
That's kind of
Okay.
close. Yeah.
God is giving me.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready.
All right, somebody count down, I guess.
3.
Was
Go.
that the countdown?
Oh,
What?
I said a countdown. I didn't hear no countdown.
Right. What was the two? What was the one?
3, 2, 1.
Okay, when I think of waves, I think of the ocean. And in the ocean, there are different size waves. There are small waves, there are big waves. There are actually people who go out and they seek out these waves. The thing about surfers and waves is, in order to become a good surfer, you have to crash a lot. And I think about the wave, the size of the wave. If you want to become an expert surfer, you cannot only surf small waves. And I liken that to our lives and the things that happen in our lives. If you want to reach your full potential in Christ, in your life, in the things that you are doing, you can not only go up against small waves. You need those big waves in your life that you can go up against, that you can fall a couple of times so you can figure out what's the sweet spot. Where do I need to be? How low does my head need to be? What types of things do I need to do and say so that I can become a great surfer? So in life, don't seek out only small waves. Be a giant killer like Goliath and go up against the big ones.
Oh,
You be practicing these off air.
For real.
All right. Okay.
I think I'm gonna stay in the
Ocean.
ocean water area,
Okay.
and I'm gonna say buoy.
Buoy.
BOUY. You know the floaty.
The
thing
floaty
that some
things that
people
be out in the
get
water.
lost at sea
I-
hang on to.
I don't. What is it? Buoy?
A buoy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they.
It's like a floaty.
Like you
Okay.
ever been to the beach and you see the little flotation device that's out in the middle of the sea?
It's like a pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they like-
Okay.
It's just a thing
Okay.
that floats that tell you don't go past this point.
Okay.
But some people, if they're lost at sea, they hang on to it for dear life until they get saved.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right.
You let me know when you're ready.
Buoy.
Oh, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
So my word is buoy. I don't know nothing about buoy. So E just gave me a definition on buoy, and he described it as this barrier, like a boundary. It's in place to protect you so that you don't go past a certain point and end up getting yourself harmed and hurt. Now, I told you I don't know nothing about buoy. And you know what? That's very relatable because at one point I ain't know nothing about boundaries. I found myself getting hurt, found myself getting in harm that I had no business being in until I learned what boundaries are and the importance of it. It doesn't make everybody feel good. It's not welcomed by everybody you give them to, but it protects you and keeps you out of harm's way so that you can do what you need to do and live the life that God put on you.
Amen.
That was good.
That was cool.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Better than mine. Wasn't ever. Mines were trash.
So that has been our conversation on love, emotional intelligence,
Dope.
and buoys.
Yeah, buoys.
Salts.
That was a good one.
Salts, waves.
This ends our season. This was the season finale. We talked about all
Yeah.
the emotions this season.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching, go back and watch the previous episodes. We covered a lot of different things. Denzel, we thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
me, bro.
Yep. You guys can go watch Denzel preach at a church near you. But let us know in the comments what you want us to talk about next season. We're going to start filming soon. And make sure you check out those previous episodes. Shout out to E for being in the building today. He'll be around a lot more now. Shout out for Erica for holding it down this season.
Solid team.
Shout out my fiance because I can't shout out everybody in the room. She's sitting here and not say nothing to her. But thank you guys for watching this season, and we hope to see you back next season.
Thanks for having me. Peace.